Guys, welcome to MACkite. We are here with our over 50 wingfoil crew, and the discussion today is about all of the benefits that we're finding to the middle-aged demographic. And so we're kind of going to roundtable some points here that we've written about in this blog post that we'll embed the video in. Welcome, and ride along with us.
Middle-aged, we're assuming you're going to live to 100.
Yeah, AKA half-life. Lifers, man. We're just getting the better half of life right here.
Half-lifers.
Yeah.
In the
Wish
article.
I agreed with that.
Look at us. We're midday here.
Jeff's gonna be our official time wrangler. He's very good at this.
I'll keep us on
Because there's definitely 4 squirrels here.
Yeah.
Some of the in the piece that we wrote, some of the big benefits were around health, and one of the first points was improved physical health, core strength and stability, flexibility, and range of motion. With that said, what are your thoughts? We're all over 50. You guys have all been wingfoiling way more than I have. Stein and Eric and Mark have probably been the most. Jeff shortly behind them, and then myself, I think I've got a dozen sessions under my belt. So what do you guys think in that area of physical fitness, mobility, strength? I know that's a broad.
The biggest one for me is obviously, if you can believe it, my brain being on your knees. I'm not on my knees much.
Yeah.
In this time of my life.
Sure.
So in this sport, this is where you are when you're starting, when you're in the water.
Right.
And my brain initially had a hard time thinking from this stance.
If you're lucky, you're in that position when you're starting.
True. To this stance.
Sure.
And then getting up on one leg.
Right. Yep.
So, I mean, when I first started, physically I was fit enough. I rode bikes, I did things, I was active. I didn't go from couch to the sport.
Yep.
But that was something I hadn't done, that movement. So it wasn't so much my body couldn't do it, but my brain was hesitant. I'm being transparent. When I was on the water the first time, Winda gave me a couple quick directions on what to do, which was very little, and I'm out there bobbling on my knees.
Sure.
And I'm trying to get that leg up, and my brain was like, there was like this disconnect.
Yeah.
So I always have told, on the phone when I talk to guys, and even in the shop, get on your knees in your living room, practice getting up on one leg just like I did, and getting up on the other. I know it sounds stupid. I know you can be really fit, you can be a great athlete.
Yeah.
But if it's something you haven't done in a while, there's a disconnect in the brain.
And it's one of those things where if you haven't actually done that, like consciously made an effort to, hey, can I just jump up from my knees like I used to do? And I can. It's not the same.
No,
I can do it, but it's not the same for sure.
Unless you have grandkids and you've been on the floor playing with them, or I'm being upfront. You're not in that position. You guys agree? Down like this much.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. And then come up from that. Right.
And then do it 30 times an hour while you're a beginner.
Exactly. Yeah,
now, in fairness, we are getting some lift from the wing, so it's not just. And plus, there's a rush. There's that rush of endorphins and energy and excitement too. Not just that you were down scrubbing the floors and now you got to stand up in your kitchen. You're stoked about being out there. So there's.
May I add to that? We're all watermen, and then to get into a new sport, you're thrown into beginner.
Yeah.
You're thrown into being back to
humbling
experience, being in the water where you're not used to being in the water very long. And what I found with learning, getting older, to take a few deep breaths.
Yeah.
It sounds simple, but just calming yourself down, enjoying the process of falling in the water, getting back up on the board. I mean, seriously. I was my own worst enemy at first. I'm like, I'm good at kiting, I'm good at water sports. Why is this so hard? I had a lot of tension, and that doesn't help you learn the sport. If you bring that to the progression, you have to enjoy the progression of learning. And just the element of breathing, and relaxing, helped me. Just to enjoy it. When I fell off, don't rush going to get the wing. Don't rush to stand up. Don't rush to do things that you've been watching on YouTube and all these things that you think are just going to be. Just enjoy the process, and like you said, that adrenaline.
Those are good points, man.
Chill a little bit.
Otherwise, you're going to wear yourself out.
Exactly.
Those are great points.
Take a moment to think about why you fell, rather than just getting back up to try again. So you're learning from the process.
Don't rush it.
Yeah.
And try to enjoy each part of it.
And also what you said about, you're an experienced waterman. I've had a number of experienced kiteboarders, windsurfers, surfers come to me and say, "Oh, I don't even need to take lessons. I'm really good."
Yeah.
And that's what I did 4 years ago. I tried to teach myself on a wingfoil board with a wing, and I was humiliated. And 45 minutes later, I said, "Okay, maybe I should fly the wing on the beach for 3 hours, then ride a paddleboard, and then go back to the foil board."
Break it down.
That worked a lot easier.
Right, the breakdown, like you say, the bigger steps into the smaller, manageable steps.
And we did that. I did that on snow, on ice.
Oh, yeah.
Isolating the wing and learning.
Yeah.
We got a big winter here in Michigan, so I took the opportunity to really isolate my wing skills.
Yep.
We had great ice, which is incredible if you can ever do it on ice with ice skates.
Yeah, you really jumped,
I did,
man.
and
I
that
noticed.
Really took my winging ability to the next level. I mean, you can do it on a stand-up paddle, in other areas that I know skateboard that we're going to probably hit. But I think at any age, but especially when you're half-lifers like ourselves or over 50, breaking the sport down, like you just said, and working on that wing a little bit, and maybe something you feel a little bit more confidence in. Like I'm confident skater, confident on the snow. So I knew how to do that. So all I had to do is focus on the wing.
Sure. So we're talking about some of the fitness aspects that this sport has that it requires, and while it's not great, I think one big fitness challenge is up here our ego.
Yeah.
Because like in these instances where I know we talk people off the ledge quite frequently who are trying to go too quickly to a maybe too small of a volume board. And while we're always like, "Hey, look, we'll take care of it.
this one?
If you want us to fulfill an order for you, we will absolutely do it." But in good confidence, we have to make sure that we feel good about what we're doing at the end of the day, and we got to be cool with the person in the mirror, and that we've done a good service to our customers. And by that I mean, I'm quick to just say, "Look, man, do you want to have fun?" And to use a surfboard analogy of we've all surfed. Do you run right out and jump on a shortboard? You can, or paddle out with a longboard or a fun board, fish, graduate down, and so that kind of is similar with wingboarding. And so our ego, I bring that in as an aspect of wingfoiling, because hey, look, everybody in wind sports, especially those of us guys of a certain age, there is a type A personality within almost everybody that we deal with in this sport. And with that comes a little bit of an ego that doesn't like to be
a beginner.
Yeah, beginner. It is. It's a humbling thing. It really is. And so bringing that full circle into other aspects that we were talking about with the physical fitness aspect. Mark, what have you noticed as because you're 3 seasons in now?
Yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah. What's your take on some of the physical requirements that wingfoil has?
Yeah, I mean, well, particularly learning is just exhausting. It's exhausting. Yeah. I was so humbled particularly the first 3 sessions, maybe 4. I couldn't believe it. I'd end up on a foil downwind.
Yeah.
Like 350 yards, and then I have to drag everything up after just took everything I get just to get up into the beach back from after drifting out to sea almost.
Right.
And then I got to carry everything up against a 20-mile-an-hour wind. You don't even know. You don't even know how to carry things yet. You're like, what's the most efficient way to do this? You know what I mean, or that. So, it's humbling the amount of things it takes to learn. And then once you get decent at it, that drops
quickly.
Yeah. I mean, you still want to be fit. Because then you can ride longer, go out in more intense conditions, and save yourself if you get into trouble. Like I had to paddle twice the other day.
Yeah, I was there.
20 minutes both times because the wind dropped and then teased me back out and then dropped again.
Yeah.
And the water was 50 the second time. The first time I made it back in the channel, the water was 65. I was good. Second time, no boots, no gloves.
Yeah.
Losing the feeling in my feet, my hands after a 20-minute paddle. And then still had to walk 350 meters back to my van.
Yeah. It's
Man.
a real, you know, and I forgot to preface, I should have prefaced in the very beginning that everybody here has decades of experience in kiteboarding. Now, and you guys all three sailboarders, right?
And windsurf.
And sailing. So there's a lot of wind sport. I should have set that up in the very beginning. Lots of
over 40
experience.
years. That's crazy.
Lots of wind and water sports
Started
experience.
windsurfing like 42 years ago.
Right?
No.
1982.
I started
not
windsurfing
that
in
long ago.
82.
82 for me
35
too.
years ago, maybe. Yeah.
I started surfing in Hawaii in 76.
Yeah.
So I was just really lucky.
38 years ago.
So as we talk about
that's
these,
awesome.
that is rad. And I just so you have the viewer has a point of reference of where we're coming up. You know, we're not just fresh off the boat in that sense. We've spent a lot of time
We're just
in the
off
water.
the jet.
Just off the jet. I knew as soon as I said that with UFOB.
Yeah.
I would piggyback off what Mark said. When you're learning, be prepared to be exhausted after about 45, 50 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to one, have that expectation so you're not disappointed. Even someone like myself who runs, I try to ride, bike, and stay fit. I was tired because it was a new type of movement for my body.
Sure.
Falling off the board, climbing on the board, getting on my knees, balancing on my knees and my core with the wing in the air, with waves.
Yeah.
It's best to learn in flat water, but that's for another discussion.
Yeah,
but
that's for sure.
I think, you have to be prepared for a little bit of, elevated heart rate and tiredness as you learn.
Oh,
but
yeah.
like you said, once you get it, that's why you can see older men like ourselves and even older, even possibly with some ailments. Once you get up on foil, there's so much less friction.
Sure.
And when you start to harness in, you don't need to have big arms. I mean, look at me. I mean, you don't need to be muscular strength to do this. It's more about balance, finesse, and waiting. Sure. And once you get those all pieces together, it's like a magic carpet ride.
Yeah,
literally.
Goodness. Yeah.
So I think the learning, for us over 50-year-olds, the learning curve could scare a few. I'll be straight up. Just the first, getting in the water and the tiredness of it. But once you do get first flight or you start to see success, I'm sure you guys would agree with this. All of a sudden you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
And I know this because I stopped kiting for a while. And then I went back to kiting and did just a session for 30 minutes, and I was sore.
Sure.
But not from winging. I mean, there's different muscles, but I do believe that winging is a little bit more of a glide, flow, surfy feel, and a little less impact, I believe, a little less impact on your body once you learn the sport.
Yeah.
Than kiting can be if you're throwing yourself in the air, doing tricks.
Sure.
So that's a plus side. I think you're going to see a lot of older guys. You see it in kiteboarding already when they learn to foil. You see a lot of them start to head that direction more.
Sure.
And not to stereotype that you can't be 65, 70 and still jump and do all that, but you see a lot of us starting to go to that foil.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it's it is more forgiving once you learn it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you guys would agree with that.
No, that's that's a great point. Yeah, absolutely.
Unless it hits you in the neck.
I wish I remember
right.
that.
And that's a variable. That is a variable. And I think we've got some of that covered in some of the upcoming pieces. So we've talked about some of the physical fitness side of it, the mental health boost from just being out on the water. Spending time outdoors in the sun or rain or whatever we're in. I absolutely can tell personally, and I don't even have to go out for that long of a session. If I can get out for an hour, it just is such a cleansing. I don't want to get spiritual, but I mean, you're out in the water sitting there and taking it in, and you're kind of one with nature. I don't want to get all weird about it, but I mean, it's a cool, it's an awesome vibe.
And there's adrenaline and endorphins.
Big time.
And your heart pumps faster, you breathe more, oxygen gets you high too.
Yes.
You're getting high.
Yep.
It's a healthy addiction.
It is. It is.
I mean, it's like I grew up sledding.
Yeah.
In Michigan. Grew up sledding.
Right.
And now I'm on my own sled with this massive hill. Our hill's 300 miles long, Lake Michigan, 80 miles across.
Right.
With wind swells that can take you some days as far as you feel like going.
Sure.
So it's like sledding on steroids, for the 50-some-year-old. You know what I mean?
And it's usually not as cold.
Awesome.
yeah, maybe not as cold, except for me the other day paddling in.
Right.
Yeah.
Liquid snow.
Yeah. For
for me,
sure.
when you're on those wind swells, it's like sledding.
I think what you made me think of too, that it opens up like in the Great Lakes, we don't have the huge, swell and surf like other places in the world.
Sure.
But this sport, you don't need much of a wave to get that feeling.
Right.
Sure.
And I mean, we're not getting any younger. We still like to charge, and you can still have that feeling even in a knee-high a wave. Yeah. Literally. I mean, it feels
just
good.
that groovy sensation.
Would you agree?
Totally.
I just feel so good.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
It's just kind of like a nice intermediate powder day snowboarding.
Yeah.
You're just cruising and enjoying it, kind of. I'd say.
Even a boat wake, if a boat goes by in the lake, which I've had experience in,
you
can even have fun jumping on that, or a ferry.
Yeah, right.
So it kind of brings the thrill level to an engaging spot where you don't have to live where the waves are super good or where the conditions are perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, you can engage this right outside your lake house in small chopping waves.
Sure.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Kill it.
It becomes perfect.
Yeah. It is what you make of it.
Your own environment for it. Yeah. It's cool.
One of the points too was the thrill of learning, and along with again physical requirements that we've been talking about, different things that we've experienced along the way. It always is fun, putting yourself in, the lower elementary scenario, and you're learning something brand new again that you are, especially if you've already are an experienced waterman. You already have a lot of experience being out there on the water with other sports. This is, again, it's humbling, but that thrill of learning something new, it's like all systems are go. You're heightened awareness, you're paying attention to what people are doing around you, you're taking tips from other riders, other wingers, who are showing you a thing or two. And isn't it awesome how I feel like sometimes when you're receptive to other people's input, one little important tip can change your whole aspect of this sport and how your progression into it goes. I mean, just one little oh dude, your analogy about the sliding glass door, right? Talk to us briefly about the sliding glass door analogy with the wing.
Well, first, when you're going to make an analogy and you're teaching large numbers of people, you want something that most people can relate to. And most people have slid a door forward or back. You slide the door back, the wind's hitting it here, it spins you upwind. If you slide the door here, the wind's over here, it's pulling the nose downwind. You can slide it forward in front of you, kind of like where a windsurf sail is on this. You can slide it when your wing's at a 45 degree, or you can slide it forward and back when it's almost completely straight overhead. And the misconception for most people is you have to have it way out in front of you here for more power. But if you put it up here, most of the power is lifting you, making you lighter. Stretching you out. A gust of wind makes you even lighter, but here a gust of wind bends you over and throws you over the toe side. So it's much easier to be up high because once you're lighter, you don't need as much power to keep flying.
Big time, And that was an aha moment, though. I remember I was sailing flat water, foil down. I wasn't even up on foil yet, riding a big volume board in, maybe 10. But then all of a sudden I'm out there monkeying around, and I just remembered Eric said, slide the wing back and point. And as soon as I did, and I nosed my wind, or I nosed the nose of the board upward more into the wind, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, there we go. All right, I'm riding upwind. My foil is flat. I'm not even up on foil. I'm just down and sailing, and getting those mechanics was absolutely an aha moment for me personally.
And you gave me an aha moment with that. I remember, Stein, you told me to work on my tacks, pump through my tack.
Right.
Because you're going against the grain, you're going against the wind, you're losing momentum. Pump through that.
Most people try to coast through, and if they slow down, they think they're falling off plane. It's almost too late to start pumping then. But if you pump gently on the way through your transition, when you are flipping the sail, there's no power, you're still doing it. And if you need more, you've already got a rhythm built up that you can just accentuate and keep yourself going through the full 100.
Yeah, that helped me a lot.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, totally. I think I nailed my first tack 10 minutes after you told me that.
And you went by while I was making a video for beginners.
I think I was there,
And I'm like, oh, wow. Well, if he just did a little pumping there, that would make... And that was just off the top of my head.
Which
is so helpful.
keeping the wing high. I think I reminded you that.
You did too, yes. Keep the wing high.
It does help in your transitions, keeping the wing high, and that lift, that added lift when you're trying to go from your knee, one leg up, one knee down.
Sure.
Use that lift to help.
To help
you get up. And then once you're riding too, your first few tacks, keeping it real high, so you don't get that friction. As you make your turn and those things. So little things like that do help, especially as you're struggling, and your mind's set on a certain way. Even as all windsurfers, there are some similarities, but there are differences.
Right.
That you're not connected to the boom and the mass. It's just you're the mass.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're the man.
Literally.
Right. To be the ball dandy.
And for people the windsurfers that are listening, I think once you do learn, once you get past the learning of winging, it's easier. Right. It's easier than windsurfing. Less friction.
Oh, it's much easier than windsurfing.
There's less like grunt. Some of my windsurfing buddies still like to feel that feet to control. That on a plane and you're ripping. But this is a lot more, I say, ballet, dancing. It's so flowy. And that's why I think, once you get the mechanics down, you don't have to be super, like this, perfect body type or perfect person type. That foil takes over in a way that can make it so flowy and relaxing. I mean, the environment around you, I've been on the water for years, but the calmness you can have when there's waves and wind, and it's just like, crazy. We've all been there in the water. Sure. But when you're up on foil and a wing, it's just like, it's so chill. And the more chill you are, I think you progress and get better, because any kind of tension you have, that goes straight to that foil. Translates to bucking you, sending you. So I think keeping yourself calm in the storm, so to speak. That's really helped me.
That's a great point of view.
But I like that, because I think, it's something that, it's not something that you have to continually grind at when you're up riding. You can chill. You can enjoy the moment, even though everything around you is crazy.
When you compare the workload for wingfoiling to kiteboarding or windsurfing, a kite pulling a board or a windsurf sail pulling a board on the water has so much drag that the board is never going to go as fast as the power source wants to. Which means you're always getting torqued.
You're holding that
because you're the shock absorber in between. But when you pop up on foil and you eliminate 98% of the drag, it's kind of like you got a big dog on a long rope and you're trying to run to keep up with it. It's never going to happen. But if you put on some rollerblades, the dog reaches top speed, you reach top speed, and the rope isn't even pulling hard. You're just barely, there's a little bit of line drag in it, and you're cruising. Dog's happy, you're happy. Just cruising along and your arms aren't getting tired. But when you're doing this, because you can't go as fast as the dog, well, you get tired fast. It's like water skiing and wakeboarding. You ride for 5 or 10 minutes, and you sit in the boat for a half hour and get ready for your next ride. This is just, I can kind of do this for a couple hours and I'm not even tired.
Another point here was talking about exploration and adventure, right? So coming from surfing, kiting, snowboarding, all boards, we've all traveled, whether it's within the country or outside of the country, for different sports. What have you guys done travel-wise? Is there anything that sticks out that you like or dislike? Obviously traveling can be fun, especially to go traveling for wind sports. But what? You went down to Columbia for the Cabrina dealer meeting.
I did. I didn't do any winging down there.
Okay, you did.
But I did recently just go down to South Padre.
That was a great trip, right?
Yes, and I think, I don't know, maybe where the lead-in on this is, that maybe like traveling with your gear.
Just talking about that's a benefit to or a benefit of this sport being part of you're getting out and traveling and seeing. Again, that might be 10 miles from where you live or 1,000 miles or halfway around the world. I don't, that's wide open. Good.
Fresh Michigan strawberries.
Strawberries. Thanks, brother.
I think your point is that you can explore and travel with your newfound sport of winging, and that is true.
Yes.
And I think where this sport is different than other wind sports that I've been involved with, maybe a little bit similar to windsurfing, but you can easily engage in the lake small waterways.
Which is cool. Yeah. Right.
I'm thinking more like kiting. You have your lines and everything, which makes it harder.
Yeah.
Fewer beaches where you can launch and land
spots.
safely.
Where this sport, it just opens up so many possibilities. Literally, if there's water out there and there's a ripple of wind on it and it's deep enough, like waist
you can
deep,
paddle out to that wind.
waist deep, you can engage in winging.
Yeah.
So I think it really opens it up
Big time.
And we've already talked about the efficiency. You hinted towards that. We were just joking about skateboards and rollerblades and on snowboards. When you get up on foil, you don't need as much wind to have fun.
Yeah.
And as you get better, and you can ride in the lighter wind, you literally at your cottage or other places you have where it's not a really windy spot, you can really enjoy winging. I think more so than almost other wind sports I've been involved in.
Right.
Kite foiling, you can really get out in light wind, but then if it's in an inland lake or areas, you got trees and hazards.
Yeah.
Where this is, like you said, you can even paddle out to the wind.
Sure.
Yeah.
On your board. We haven't really talked about that, the safety side of getting in trouble in the sport.
Yeah.
It's far, you don't have to worry as much. If
Sure.
the wind dies, you have something wrong with your wing or something, you can just paddle in.
Yeah.
You
can
don't
always
have to
paddle in.
self-rescue. Yeah, that's a term we use in kiteboarding, self-rescue.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy.
Right.
Yeah. As long as you got boots and gloves on.
Yeah, like you just
50-degree water.
You had a couple of long paddles last week.
Still want to prepare for the swim.
Yeah,
Brutal.
you were out there a ways.
Dress for success.
Yeah. And never go out any further than you're willing to paddle back.
Right.
That's
right.
That was a unique situation.
But that could be a peace of mind for beginners to know that.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
if they get out, because you're going to have one way you can ride stronger than the other. And depending on the wind direction, that might be heading out is where it's strong and not real strong heading back to shore.
Yeah.
Or it's the other way around. But you can just paddle in. You really can.
Yeah, much different from like the scenario talking about prepping to kite. When you show up at a new spot as a kiteboarder, you're analyzing a much bigger area around you. Primarily, you're looking at launching and landing, and then what other obstacles, power lines, trees, wind shadows are there. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of people who, now granted, I talk coastally. You got East Coast, West Coast here in the U.S. We in the Great Lakes region are the third coast, but then outside of that, middle of the country, Kansas, there are people riding on lakes that are just having a blast and not feeling like it's a watered down version of something better. It is absolutely the stoke on their faces and their voices as you're talking to people and meeting different people who are riding in all places around the country. Not to neglect any, the global, but for us here in the U.S., we know where our areas are at, absolutely, and our customer base is expanding into entirely new geographic regions than what we're used to with wingfoil. With kiting, we know East Coast, West Coast, and there's a big contingent here in the Great Lakes region as well, but that really was kind of it. But now, man, anywhere there's a substantial enough body of water that you can, like you said, deep enough and has some available wind, man, people are having fun all over the place now, and that's a whole unique scenario that we're finding.
And the other side of that too is when I first started winging, a lot of my kiteboarding friends were like, "Why are you not kiting anymore? That doesn't look like that'd be that much fun." I don't know if you guys experience that. Some people think you're just mowing the lawn or going back and forth. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I'm experiencing flight.
Sure.
And what it feels to go above the water, which, it's an incredible feeling.
Yeah.
So going back to your point, you don't need the perfect conditions.
You don't.
To get that feeling in this sport.
Yeah.
You can have it in the lighter wind or the heavy wind. Obviously, we haven't talked a lot about waves, but that's a different element.
Yeah.
To this sport, which is a little more advanced when you start riding waves. But in kiteboarding, we say mowing the lawn, just going back and forth.
And that is where all kiteboarders start.
They do, they do. But foiling, there's so much, I feel, a new sensation and feeling that of flying, going back and forth. It's different, and the transitions and things you can work on too.
Yeah.
In the sport. So some of you, I know there's some guys that are resisting because they think, you can't go 50 feet in the air, do tricks and jump.
Yeah, a little different.
This sport has a different sense of stoke, on the foil. We're all hooked by it and love it for that reason.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. You know, that's. How about the next? I should have started with this maybe, but one of the points in this article talking about age has no significance. Now, maybe not no significance, because there is some significance here, but for those of us who are all over 50, guys over 50 specifically, not to diss on our, the women riders, female riders that are getting into winging. It's just the overwhelming demographic, unfortunately, is us right here. It is an older male demographic. Not saying unfortunate. It just is the major demographic within the sport at this point in time. And so that's kind of why we're honing in and being a little more specific on that. But I don't feel that it's that it has no significance, but at the same time, I don't feel disenfranchised. You know what I mean? I'm not, as a wing foiler, wishing, oh man, dude, wish I was 20. I am having a blast out there, and I'm not just putting a Band-Aid on an otherwise sore subject. I legitimately and honestly, sincerely believe that. When I go out to foil, even when I'm kiting, I don't care, but I mean, like going out to wing foil, whether you're learning, intermediate, advanced, whatever, I don't feel at any disadvantage. Yeah, I'm not compromising. I don't feel, maybe in the morning I may say something different as the day after a good session. I'm like, I might be a little, sore or whatever, but I think that is something that maybe is a misunderstood fact, because how many times, going back to kiteboarding, people come up to you and they think, oh man, you got to be able to do 100 pull-ups if you're sitting there holding on to that bar. Well, we know that's not true. It's efficiency and technique.
50 pull-ups.
Yeah, 50 pull-ups. But with wing, I feel like, yeah. Sure, that's beneficial, right? Yeah. To be able to do that, for sure. How has that affected you, Mark? Do you feel, again, like as a wing foiler, are you in your mind thinking, dude, wish it was 20 again?
Pretty much everything.
For the sake of
I wish
sport.
I was 20 again.
For the sake of this sport specifically.
Almost everything.
Mr.
Yeah. I know that's a loaded question, but like
a little bit of maybe.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You guys have any input? Yeah.
You're telling me riding a wave at our age on a foil? That's pretty sick feeling.
I mean, I'm
dude.
53. I feel like I'm 20.
You feel like a kid when you're out there.
I felt like the other day we had a good wave session.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of kids, like kids surfers that were very young.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I was out there.
As long as my back is in alignment.
Yeah.
Right. You had all these kids surfing, watching you on the outside.
Yeah. And what's crazy?
And you're probably twice the average age of everyone in the lineup.
Yeah.
And you're out there by yourself on the third sandbar, riding waves for hundreds of meters.
Yeah.
While there's 25 surfers on the inside riding little waist-high waves.
Yeah.
In their little pack.
And a couple of them are from my hometown. I've moved away from there. Didn't know it was me because they were just enamored by the foil. They weren't looking at the old man on there.
But they don't know
they're in the water looking at the
they
foil.
didn't know who they were
So one dude was like, I was down there. And he's like, what? I was seeing this guy and I saw this foil and they're riding this foil. And I'm like, yeah, that was me.
There you go.
But no, I guess to that point, the stoke can still be real as we age. I mean, I felt like...
and legit, like not to put a Band-Aid on that. It's not a watered down version of being stoked on something just because that's all that is available or that's the only level of performance you can get anymore. I don't feel that. And going back to the fact that foiling is such a finesse sport.
Yeah, it is.
In wing foiling specifically, you, Jeff, referred to it as a dance, and I absolutely was tracking on that the first few times I was getting up and starting to make a transition, and you're like, yeah, this is an eloquent kind of a vibe. There's a different music in my head when I'm winging versus kiting. I go out on a session, especially if it's nuking, and there might be, you're like, you're rocking out, but even in the same conditions with the wing, you're gliding and grooving in a more, eloquent way, I guess.
You're dancing with the wing.
Yeah.
Bring it up over your head.
For sure. And it looks good. I was watching you from the bluff on that session that you were just talking about. It started to rain a little bit, and I'm sitting there going, oh man, I don't know if I want to suit up. Right. I was watching you out on the third sandbar, just grooving down the line, man. And I absolutely should have suited up and came out and floundered. I'm not to that level that you are. I would have absolutely been struggling.
But surf with me.
I should have. My impatience was getting the best of me on that one, I think.
Oh man.
Stoke-wise, for the wing, I learned to kite in Maui in 1999, two-line kites with some of the pros. I was really lucky. And I got, to be a high-level rider, mega loops. I did, strapless back roll kite loops all the time. I really loved it. And in 2019, I bought my first wing from MACkite, taught myself. I stopped kiteboarding.
Right.
Not because kiteboarding was any less cool.
Not because you couldn't.
Not because I'm old, but this was a new challenge, and frankly, I didn't crash very often anymore kiteboarding because I was fairly good.
Sure.
And this was like, wow, learning curve, new challenges, new victories every day.
Yeah.
And the idea that you're flying a wing over your head in the air while flying another wing underwater with your feet, you got two sets of wings. It's like you're a dragonfly.
Yeah.
And you're just working them against each other. Because dragonflies have individually articulated wings that can fly and flap in different ways and different patterns. Yes. And that's what we're doing on a hydrofoil underwater with a wing over it. We're pumping this one, we're pumping this one. And it's such a challenge that I haven't missed kiteboarding. It's not that I'm never going to kite again, but I haven't for 4 years.
Sure.
Oh, wow.
One
time.
You're going to get
in
going
Costa
this week.
Rica, I went out when it was blowing 40 to 54 knots because I had to.
Yeah.
But other than that, I want a wingfoil.
Yeah.
I'm only an intermediate wingfoiler. I have so much to learn.
Sure.
So many new victories.
Yeah, me too, for sure.
And it really is amazing.
Kiteboarding is still for me, I think 7-meter drifter, head high, ceiling high waves on my surfboard is still my favorite jam.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or throw me in the water at Rincon with only 20 guys out in the glassy overhead days.
And then you wake up.
That was beautiful. But if it's like subpar conditions, and the wingfoil to me gives me that groovy rush.
Yeah.
It's kind of chill.
Yeah.
I really like it. And like you said, I have things to learn kiteboarding. I've been kiteboarding for 22 years.
Sure.
I mean, I maybe learned a new variation of a trick the other day, but I'm never going to be, whatever, pro level or anything like that. But strapless back rolls, things like that. Love it. Great fix. But now, just so many more things to learn on the wing. Just simply a smooth tack transition onto the face of a wave. You're going out toe side, and here comes a set.
Yeah.
But the set's upwind of you. Pump up wind, scoop that thing off, spin that wing over your head, drop in on that wave and ride it for 300 yards.
Looks so fluid.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Feels so good. I know. 'Cause I'm still living on that feeling for 2 days ago. Just ripping down the line, holding that wing behind you.
It's so smooth.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, what?
It's like you're on your powder board, just dropping in on a little knee-deep day, and you're just laying a turn into it. And it feels like smooth and groovy.
Big time.
And there's no lift line at the bottom.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
You can just keep going.
There's no lift line.
There's no lift ticket.
And
There's no lift ticket. Right.
It was that kind of thing that I finally saw that made me go, okay, I will take a look at this. Because when wingfoiling first hit the market, personally, I was like, what? No.
I know. Me too.
No. I was like, no way.
Well, I kind of felt that way about kiteboarding. You called me when I was still living in California in 2000.
I remember that.
Or 2001.
Yeah.
Dude, when you get skinny brother, when you get home this summer, man, we gotta learn how to kite. I'm like, dude, I don't know. I already windsurf. I already surf. Dude, we gotta learn how to kite. Oh yeah, cool. We'll see what happens. 2 months later, we're at MACkite with a 2-line whippoca in our hands.
Sure. Thank you, Steve-O.
Going down to the beach and self-launching and self-landing each other with one kite, and then.
Oh man.
Well, that's the inspiration.
There you go.
You see someone doing something.
Mm-hmm.
I saw you.
Yeah.
I was
we didn't know each other.
Yeah,
I was doing it downwinder.
Yeah, you were down downwinder, and I was doing sandcastles with my kids, and my windsurfing gear was kind of old, and I was thinking about getting new windsurfing gear. You come by and just rip a turn and splash the water just before the sandcastle and go back out.
You flagged me down.
I'm like, what, dude? Come here. I finally see someone that looks like I want to do that.
How many years ago was that?
I was in like 07.
It's been a minute.
06.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Because a lot of guys are just getting dragged around, and of course Mark, the local legend here, just came by, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, flagging me in.
That's right.
Who's this
Mr.
dude?
Jeff.
I want to be like that.
Yeah.
I want to be that.
Who knows, when did we even see each other again after that?
It was a while.
I don't even know.
Yeah, because I wasn't until 08, 07 I took lessons, so like 3 years later.
It was the first time we met.
Yeah. I flagged
Hilarious.
you over. Come here.
You know what? This is an awesome segue into the next part of this discussion is about the community, right? The bonds that are formed through wind sports are some of the longest. Like when I think of who's on speed dial on my phone, other than my immediate family, it's all you guys. It's all my wind sports friends. It's there is a bond that is
Misery likes company.
Yeah, misery loves company.
Come on, wind.
It is. Yeah, you share your successes and your failures, but there's that passion, and I think that's probably what it really rotates around is a passion for something. And when it's like the first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning,
oh heck yeah,
you're
amped.
Yeah,
and you want to be amped with your friends.
Totally.
I mean, it's all good. I kite and wing and surf all winter.
Yeah.
That thins the crowd out. I will be out. I had a lot of sessions by myself this winter. It's 30 degrees, it's 30 degrees. 30 degree air, 33 degree, 40 degree water.
Yeah.
There's some times where I was by myself.
Yes.
But,
which dicey choices, right?
Yeah, it's all good though. It's cool. But to be out with your friends and everybody's stoked.
Yeah.
And then, whatever.
And winging brings a different element to that.
Yeah.
Because I think the calmness of it when you're riding next to each other.
Totally, you can talk.
You can talk.
You can hear each other.
We were talking on a wave we caught a party wave. We're on the same wave.
And you're just
like zigzagging.
Dude, it's just like going down a powder run.
Yes.
And you're making the freaking figure eights.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that kiting a little bit, but we usually go blowing by each other.
Sure.
But there's noise.
Send it.
We're just nicking each other with the wing. We're right tight, and
that's where it's fun. I mean,
that is cool.
Sessions by yourself are good, but it's definitely more stoke when you're with your buddies.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right. What final thoughts do you guys have as we wrap this up? The whole point of this conversation again was, what are the benefits of wingfoiling to our specific demographic? We are a middle-aged male, primarily riding here in the U.S. We've covered a lot of different topics. I know you guys probably have something that's sitting in the back of your mind that you want to kind of convey to the viewer about your experience in wingfoiling over the past few years.
The ability to share it with your friends, family, and kids without worrying about them going to the moon on a kite.
That's a good point.
I mean, I've had lessons where I taught mom and dad and a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they all had fun together in an hour and a half. You don't let kids near your kite, and you don't let your friends near your kite without 10 hours of lesson.
Absolutely.
This is something that is so easy to share. Usually I would see mostly dad out kiteboarding and mom and the kids getting sandblasted all day.
Sure.
And I had some kind of tipsy mothers at the end of the day poking me in the chest and saying, hey, what's for us? We don't get to do this. I saw my first wingfoiling slingshot. It was Jeff Lagos, right?
Okay, yeah.
2011, he released a video. He's on a wingfoil board. He's got a wing. He says, this is new. It's not ready for prime time. We'll let you know. It took another 8 years before it hit the industry. But I saw it then, and right away I said, that's going to make mom and the kids happy.
Yeah.
They can play on the paddle board. Dad can play on the foil. When they grow up, they get into foils. They can ride the foil behind a motorboat when there's no wind. They can ride on a paddle board in light wind. They can ride it on the hydrofoil board when it's medium wind.
And that was one of the nice things about this sport too, the accessibility. As you were just saying, how many stand-up paddleboards are in garages around the country right now? All add a wing, and you have your first introductory step into winging, whether it's windsurfing, wingfoiling, wingboarding, whatever you want to call it. I guess it depends on what you're riding, but I feel like that the accessibility is a major factor, regardless of age range. If you're old enough to stand on a paddleboard and hold a small wing up, I'm sure you've coached some pretty young kids, and then all the way through whatever on the upper end of that age range. Which
also,
is
a lot of the paddle boarders, they really like it in light wind or calm, but they kind of complain when it blows 8 or 10 knots, and now they can celebrate when it blows 8 or 10 knots.
Yep. That's clutch. Yeah, you're stoked about it. Like, you're genuinely like, yeah, this is
I get
rad.
to put the paddle down and go for the free ride.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love it.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like, I mean, here we're talking about our demographic, like, it's 4 guys over 50, but obviously it is for everybody.
Yes. Yes.
100,000%.
Absolutely.
It's for everybody.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it'll spread out. I mean, you know, it's a bunch of guys working at MACkite and a self-employed photographer sitting here right now. So we've got some flexibility to make these things happen, but it'll branch out and around. It's in terms of our Midwestern scene,
big time
anyway.
Well, and the sport
everywhere else is already there. I'm sure. In the world, there's more of a variety of users in this sport, but around here it's maybe more our kind of.
And that's what gets me excited about this sport. You don't need the perfect conditions, so the accessibility for the thrill that you can feel is there.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived by a lake my whole life, the big lake, but a smaller than the lake that I didn't really do much wind sports on or fun on, but I had a chance to wingfoil on the other day. And the stoke was high.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have the perfect conditions, but you can get so much out of it in the sport with a wing. The wing just brings an element to subpar conditions in water and waves and where you're at to have fun.
Yeah.
And I think that opens up things so people don't have to live by, like you said, the geographic East Coast, West Coast, and the big Great Lakes. You can be in Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, small lakes, a reservoir, in the stoke level. Without feeling a lot of risk, to be straight up with you, not a lot of risk, you can engage in a lot of fun. I mean, have that stoke that I haven't experienced in other sports, windsurfing or kiting, in those areas. For me, so it opens it up to a lot more people, in the United States that live, by a body of water.
Awesome.
As a new sport, I look back. 1987, I worked at Copper Mountain and I was snowboarding. There were 6 snowboarders, and it doubled and redoubled and redoubled. Now half of the population on the mountain is snowboarding. I look at longboarders to shortboarders. There was a transition. Longboarders said bad things about shortboarders. They both said bad things about windsurfers. Windsurfers bagged on kiteboarders, and now a lot of kiteboarders are bagging on windfoiling.
They are.
And every single one of those times, the skiers quietly. They came around. God, I learned how to snowboard. I don't want anybody to see me, And I was teaching ski instructors who didn't want anybody to see them taking lessons. They just want to show up and know how to ride. And we've gone through this. It's been 4 years selling wings at MACkite.
Yes.
We're at close to 50% volume is now wingfoiling compared to kiteboarding, which 4 years ago it was 99.9% kiteboarding. It is growing fast.
Accessibility.
We're going to get more people.
Yep.
It's
Well,
not
Jeff,
just,
what do you think? Out of 10 phone calls, are we saying that 6 or 7 of them are wing? Is that a fair?
Or more.
Or more? Yeah.
I'd say at least 70% of our phone calls are about wing.
Yeah.
And that's because it's a new sport. There's a lot of unknowns about it. To most people, have no idea. What it is.
Very tip of the iceberg in terms of awareness.
It's very early, and we're immersed in the sport. So to us, it's 3 years old, so we feel it's getting older. But to most people, they still haven't heard of it or seen it. But the number of people calling in, it's wingers. By far. And that's not to say the kiting industry is not still growing.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just it's been around. People understand it. They don't need to have as many questions. They kind of know what they want. Where winging is this new, fresh, breath air, I think, to a wind sport.
Sure.
And I think we're headed in the right direction. We want to keep it for everyone. We don't want to make it isolated to a certain stereotype of person or skill set.
For sure.
I think we talked about kids. My daughter, I have 2 kids. My daughter said, you know what? I've tried the kiting, but the winging really, something appeals to me. So I hope we can keep that appeal, that it's not just for a certain type of person to enjoy the sport, that it can be both male, female, and to your point, there is a lot of ex-windsurfers that are males, but we have I've been talking to more and more females that did windsurf back in the day or have been part of sailing and have seen the wing and are very intrigued by it. I sold a couple the other day, both husband and wife, a winging setup, and and so it's starting to appeal, and the spread is starting. It will continue, I think.
And I hope that that's right. I agree. As more and more people discover how accessible this is, I think that you're right. I hope that you're right. You know what I mean? That's
and people in retirement age. I mean, I've been couples in the retirement age picking up the sport and starting with the inflatable, starting with the bigger gear and calmer water, and then finding that sensation of flight. As you get older, like again, we keep coming back to that thrill for what you get.
Absolutely,
in this sport is huge. So,
well, guys, thank you for sharing your insight on this sport, and we, obviously we're specifically honing in on our unique demographic within this sport. Mark, thanks for having us here at your gallery. It's been
beautiful. The strawberries were wonderful.
And from South Haven the other day.
Michigan strawberries are the best.
And I want to thank you guys individually, because I have learned something about wingfoiling from each of you uniquely as I've been out and applying what you've told me or what I've learned from you in the water and getting into this experience. Man, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm enjoying. I'm still, new muscle groups are still a little more sore than others, but it's a blast. And for those that are watching, if this demographic applies to you or not, we just want you to know that this sport is accessible and wide open to such a big range of people. If you are remotely curious about it, don't hesitate to reach out to us. On the website, you can find all our contact information. You can reply in the comments section, start a conversation. Don't hesitate. That's what we're here for. We are always happy to help. And until which point we connect with you guys at a later date. Hope to see you guys out there on the water.
Yep. Enjoy the stoke.
Yes.